Services Committee member David Perdue. Senator, it's good to have you on the program. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
First, your reaction to the accusations against the president this morning.
Well, I think we've seen the answer today from General McMaster. When General McMaster says something didn't happen, it didn't happen. Look, this is the shiny object of the day in the media in Washington. I want to get back to what you guys are talking about, the debt, the budget upcoming, and this president re-engaging. Isn't it refreshing that we have a president that's re-engaging around the world? He's got his first international trip, and oh, by the way, he's going to Saudi Arabia and Israel, among other stops. I think this is a president on the move right now.
Yeah, for sure. We want to talk about that and preview this trip coming up. But first, let me address health care. White House spokesperson Sean Spicer was asked if President Trump will take a different approach when it comes to getting a bill passed in the Senate than he did with the House. Listen to what he said.
I think he feels very strong about the product that came out of the House, but he recognizes that the Senate has a duty to review it and to come up with ideas, and if it can be made stronger, then great. Obviously, they're an independent body; they have a right to go through their own process. But if we can make the bill stronger in any particular way, that's something that he'll support.
Senator, can you give us an update? Where do things stand? Did you start from scratch on a new bill?
Well, we're going to have a little bit different bill, but no, I think most of the things that are in the House bill are being discussed, and we're adapting those to the things we think are important. Look, the White House has been engaged. Vice President Mike Pence has been at our lunch on Tuesday when we talk about health care every week since they've been sworn in. I think this is a tremendously encouraging point. We're going to deal with some priorities, though, Maria. I mean, right now, Obamacare is collapsing under its own weight. In my state, we have 96 counties that only have one insurance carrier. And there are many states being told right now that their only insurance carrier will not be in business next year. So what we've got to do is make sure people have access. The second is get after the premiums. Third is make sure the Medicaid thing is dealt with properly. And then, of course, the pre-existing condition issue has to be dealt with as well.
What about tax reform? The House Ways and Means Committee is set to meet on the matter later this week. The Trump administration has said it expects to get tax reform done this year. Are you expecting as big a fight over taxes, border adjustment tax, deductions coming out as you saw in health care?
Well, I hope that we've established in the Senate that the border adjustment tax really doesn't have a place in this tax reform package. We're focused on corporate tax reform becoming competitive with the rest of the world. We're focused on the repatriation tax and also the individual tax changes the president wants to make. All three of those deals are growth oriented. That's what we're focused on in the Senate.
We want to know the timing of it. Dagan, what's your take?
It remains to be seen how quickly they can move. And, Senator, you have to look in the White House and headline after headline and stumble after stumble. And President Trump responsible for at least some of that. And how does that throw up hurdles about what you are trying to do in terms of improving this economy?
Look, the hurdle we have in the Senate right now is the Democratic leadership. I mean, they're blocking everything we're trying to do. I can't imagine one thing we would do to the health care reform package that would get one single Democratic vote. That's a sad state in America. And we're reaching out trying to get that input. On the tax reform issue, what we've got to do is get the FY18 budget done. We were supposed to have that done by April 15th this year. As Maria, you've talked about repeatedly on this show, the budget process is a sham. It hasn't worked since 1974. It's only funded the government 4 times in the last 42 years. We've got to fix that before we can ever really deal with the debt crisis.
Senator, I would argue that you need to worry about your fellow Republicans. The Democrats are not going to work with you, but there are a lot of senators who are not on board time and again with what the Republican agenda is.
Dagan, I don't disagree with that. On the tax package, I'm not sure I agree with you. On the health care package, I absolutely agree with you, and this is what we're dealing with right now.
Well, Senator, let's talk for a second about the tax package. You just said that the border adjustment is a non-starter.
The White House said that too, by the way.
That's $1 trillion of revenue in the House plan. Can you produce a proposal that's going to get corporate tax rates down to 20% or 15% as the White House wants it, without that $1 trillion, and that fits in this 10-year budget window that you're working with? How are you going to do that? How are you going to actually get corporate tax rates down in a sustainable way without some other source of revenue to fill the hole?
Well, first of all, I don't subscribe to filling the hole, as you say. I mean, this is an arbitrary budget process that we've locked ourselves into in this 10-year window that is a sham, really. What we are not talking about are the changes in deductions. We're not talking about the real dynamic effect of the repeat effect of growth, nor expenses that we can cut. We've got some $200+ billion of redundant agencies in this government, and we've not really addressed that. So all three of those things can help do what you're talking about doing.
Is the Joint Committee on Taxation going to agree with your growth estimates? And doesn't that play a role in this? Don't they have to say, yeah, you're going to get the kind of growth that you're saying you're going to get with tax cuts?
It depends on if you want it to be permanent. I'm willing to live with something right now that's not permanent. In other words, the 10-year life of this change, if we have to. I'm not giving in on that yet, but if we have to, I would personally support that. And here's why.
But companies want to plan for 20 years and 30 years. What good does it do to them to do a 10-year tax cut when they've got projects that have to go out for decades?
That's a great point. And as an ex-CEO, I can tell you I'd welcome something 3 or 4 years right now, given the uncertainty in this environment when we can't put a budget out on time. We can't even tell people how we're going to plan this year, much less the next 2 or 3 years. A 10-year budget is a total sham. We're talking about spending money now and promising to save money in 10 years. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We've got to get to where we produce a real balanced budget in this Congress.
Can you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure that the balanced budget is going to take a while. We've got to get to what you've been talking about, Maria, and that is the 800-pound gorilla in the room is we've got to save Social Security and Medicare. Without dealing with those two issues, and Medicaid, by the way.
You're the first person who's brought that up. I mean, do you really think you're going to address that in this budget?
No, not in this budget. No. I'm talking, this is a long-term fix. This is a 20 or 30-year fix to solve this debt crisis. Look, we're $20 trillion in the hole. We're so far down this rabbit hole right now, Maria, as you've talked about. This is going to take a long-term strategy. Right now, I'm trying to get past this year to get this tax package to fully stimulate this economy. And what the president's been talking about will do that.
Yeah, Don People.
Yeah, Senator. As a business person, I look at 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I'm in the real estate development business, so we have a shorter horizon. And tax relief would be a big shot in the arm for us. We are overly taxed in our business as a job-generating business to pay 39% because of these flow-through entities. One of the things I understood from Speaker Ryan was that there will be a tax cut. And the president's request is 15% corporate and for small businesses as well, and an elimination of the estate tax and a reduction of overall individual rates. And that, he said, is on a calendar for the end of the summer recess. Is that realistic? You know, given that it is a Republican House, Senate, and a Republican president, I would think we would be able to accomplish that in that window of time. Is that possible?
God, Maria, it's great to have a business guy on your panel, I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
You know, here's the deal. We've got to get the F-18 budget done. Then we've got to do the reconciliation within that before we can actually get to the tax. And what we've said in the Senate is basically we're trying to get this health care done now because of the crisis that we're in. I'm hopeful that we'll get the tax package done this year. I'm not very hopeful we'll get it actually done before the recess in August. But by the way, I'm one of a few senators that are raising their hand and saying, guys, let's don't go back to the state in August. Let's stay up here and focus on this tax package to make sure we get this done for the president.
Yeah, well, we will be watching, Senator. We know you have a lot on the agenda. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
Senator Perdue there.